another episode of Ask a Property Manager. I'm Eric Worrell with RentPrep.com, a tenant screening service, and I am joined by Andrew Schultz of Realty Edge. How you doing, Andrew?
Good. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well, and we were kind of talking before we got on the broadcast here, and Andrew can't see me, but hopefully I'm
Right.
coming across fine on the screen for the live broadcast. But Andrew, I don't know if you saw my video in the Facebook group yesterday.
I did. I actually signed up. I went on the form because I want one.
So Andrew can't see me, but I'm going to show you guys how to make one of these things work. So there's like 20 different options for these bandanas, right? So if you turn them inside out, I don't know how well, hopefully this will show up on screen. I'm going to make myself bigger.
I feel like I'm missing out by not being able to see you right now. It's like podcasting in the worst way.
You really are. You give it a twist in the middle. You flip it back down on itself. Let's see how this is going to work here. All right. We got four.
So what you're saying,
like, what are you doing?
What you're saying is you had to put your thing down, flip it, and reverse it?
Yes. I don't know what she says there. All right.
I'm so glad I got to use that.
Gives it a little bit of a skull cap here. Look, kind of almost like a swimming cap look. And I am all set. So I'm going to bring you back on screen here. This is episode 40 of Ask a Property Manager. And I'm Prison Mike from the office. So let's get to it. We got a few...
from the office.
That's what Steve says I look like more at the office.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right. So our first question here comes from Adam. And this is a question that you picked. So Adam was trying to decide on a renter, and he gave us some details. I'm going to read through it. Feel free to interrupt at some points because it might get a lot to remember if we're going through all this. So he's trying to decide on the renting to someone. The person, the rent is $975 a month, and they have a credit score of 523. The total debt is $18,000, of which $8,000 is education. And the monthly payments on the debt is $600. It's been 6 months since the last late payment, and their verifiable income is $3,000 a month.
Okay.
They also have additional self-employment income of $2,000 a month, but they also claim that they're the caretaker of their parents and they're financially supporting them. So they just kind of threw that in as an added mention here.
All right. So right off the bat, based on the information we have, I'm kind of thinking through this as we go here. There's no reference to any kind of a landlord. Oh no, they were with their parents, right?
They're taking care of their parents. I don't know if they're staying with them or not.
Okay, so there's no landlord reference there. So the big question mark is, all right, the income was fine, $3,000 in verifiable income. Let's assume that that's after taxes. Rent is $975, so they meet the 3 times rule, even not including the self-employment. So they meet the 3 times rule, even not including the self-employment. I guess my question would be, why is the credit score low?
Yeah.
If it's something where it's like medical debt or something along those lines, that's a little bit more excusable than if somebody has a cell phone bill that they didn't pay or a utility bill that they didn't pay and it went to collections and that's what's dragging their credit down. Those are 2 very different things. With a debt load of $10,000, $18,000, 8 of it is education. So $10,000 of it is just general debt. I'm willing to bet some of that's probably a car loan or something like that. I would check to make sure that their car payments are being made on time. They did say the last late pay was 6 months ago. I'd be curious to what they were late on, whether it was a credit card or a student loan or something like that. That can be a little bit telling as well. Or their auto, like if their car is not being paid on time, chances are the landlord's not going to get paid on time. So I guess the general question is, would you accept this tenant, correct?
Yeah.
So there's no landlord reference and you've got a low credit score. You've got sufficient income. So, I mean, they only really hit one point of the 3-point triangle that I look at, the credit, the income, and the landlord reference. They really only hit on 1 point, and that's the income. If you don't have other options out there and you are seriously considering this tenant, if you live in a state where you can charge an additional security deposit, maybe do a double deposit or something like that to offset the risk. Or a first, last, and security deposit, first month, last month, and security deposit, something like that to offset the risk. That would be an option. The other option might be a credit and income worthy cosigner. And when we look for our cosigners, we use the 620 credit score and then the 4.5 times the rent in net income. is kind of the guideline that we look for on a cosigner. So there's a couple of options there. It's just a matter of how badly do you want the tenant and how much risk are you willing to take.
Yeah.
So that's where I would be on it.
Yeah, and I believe we have some forms at Rent Prep where it's a conditional acceptance form. So if you are going to change your screening criteria, so maybe they don't meet your original criteria, and you're going to charge an extra security deposit, you can just kind of add that form into the mix to make sure that you're addressing why you're increasing the security deposit or something like that.
Right.
Okay. Let's move to the next question. This one comes from Mary, and she
Hmm.
was asking about your best advice for bed bugs. My husband is running a vacation rental near Yosemite National Park. People come from all over the world. The flooring is all hardwood with just 2 area rugs, and so far they've just found one bed bug in one bedroom. So she's just asking
One
me.
bed bug in one bedroom. Okay.
Yeah, sounds like a children's book or something. So first of all, I'd love to go to this rental property. That sounds like a nice spot.
Yeah,
When we
right.
go to Yosemite. But what's your advice on bed bugs?
I hate bed bugs.
As
The
opposed to all
problem
those
is
people
once
that are like, I
you,
love them.
oh, I love bed bugs. No, the problem is once you have bed bugs, they're very difficult to get rid of.
Hmm.
Very difficult to get rid of because they used to, was it DDT you used to be able to use to spray for bed bugs, and now obviously that's no longer allowed in this country.
Hmm.
I think it was DDT. It might have been something else. I could be confused, but
Yeah, I'm not sure.
you've got a couple options. First and foremost, be aggressive on treating this. Even if you've only seen one bed bug, even if you've only seen it in one bedroom, treat the entire house. And when I say treat the entire house, what I mean is if you want to go the DIY method, you're going to have to heat dry every linen in the place: pillows, blankets, comforters, sheets, towels, linens, drapery, anything that a bed bug can kind of embed itself into. They don't
Hmm.
like to be out in the open. They like to kind of hide in between like cracks and crevices and hardwood floors. They like to hide in fabrics. That's how they get from place to place, essentially. Um, so I would say be aggressive, do the heat treatment, turn the furnace on, crank the furnace all the way up for a couple of hours so that, and that's not even going to be hot enough, to be honest
Hmm.
with you, because I think you have to heat to over, I think it's over 150 Fahrenheit to kill bed bugs.
Okay.
Um, I've seen people who have used is it diametrius earth or dimetrius earth?
I'm not sure.
It's the stuff that you use in your pools.
Hmm.
Um, you can sprinkle that. If you've got hardwood floors, you can sprinkle that, let it get down in between the cracks, and then vacuum it up. Same thing with carpets. You can sprinkle it on carpets and then vacuum it up. You don't want to mop it and you don't want to sweep it because that'll actually just move your bed bugs from place to place. You could actually force them further into the house rather than getting them out.
Hmm.
Um, corners of rooms, especially make sure you hit corners and edges of rooms and stuff like that. Try to get as much of that covered as possible. Then vacuum it up. Um, Let me think. What else for bed bugs? They're such a nightmare. If you hire a professional exterminator, they're going to come in and spray some kind of a chemical. I don't remember what the chemical is that they spray at this point.
Yeah.
But normally it takes 2 or 3 treatments to get rid of bed bugs. And the tenants have to be, this is an Airbnb rental, I think you said, right?
They didn't say, but it sounded like it.
Okay. If you've got normal tenants that are still, like living there on a regular basis, they have to be 100% compliant in the prep instructions, which is all of the clothing needs to be heat dried. All of the linens and everything need to be washed and heat dried. Basically, everything needs to be heat dried and put into a sealed container.
Hmm.
And then they come in and spray and treat and everything else. And even then, you're probably still going to need 2 or 3 treatments before you can really say, okay, we got rid of the bed bugs. This is no longer an issue. Bed bugs are very challenging to get rid of. So it's something that if you're aggressive, the more aggressive you can be, the sooner you can attack the issue, the
Hmm.
better off you're going to be because it'll help prevent that spread. So I would say hit it early and hit it hard.
Yeah. And I would imagine if you have an Airbnb that it's probably more problematic just because the amount of different people that you have coming in and out of the property. So
Yeah,
definitely
exactly.
something to
Well,
be
I mean, and
aware of.
it's hotels are one of those things. I don't know if you check them, but anytime I go to a hotel, I check for bed bugs before I even unpack.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking just because I don't want to bring them back home with me and stuff like that. Fortunately, I've never brought them home from work. I'm actually kind of surprised because I know that we have had bed bugs in a couple of our houses in the past.
Hmm.
I'm surprised I've never brought them home from work, to be honest with you. Just getting one on my clothes from being in the apartments or whatever. It's one of those things. So yeah, bed bugs are definitely a challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Well, I think that does bed bugs to death, hopefully. So
Yeah,
Judith
right.
asks, she says that she's leaving several things in the garage of my rental property, including landscaping equipment and tools. My neighbors who will be taking care of my property will be using those items on a regular basis. My tenants have permission to enter and store their things in the garage and to use the patio furniture and associated items such as cushions, umbrellas, etc., as
Right.
well as the things like a screwdriver, hammer, etc. However, I
Hmm.
don't want them to use any of the power tools. Does anyone have an example of an addendum or a lease clause for this type of situation? What would you tell
I'm
Judith?
actually, I would tell Judith to just not do that. Don't, don't, it, if you're not using the property as your primary residence, don't
Mhm,
leave stuff stored there.
mhm,
Don't leave tools, don't leave, outdoor furniture, stuff like that. Don't leave personal effects behind in a rental property because they're either going to come up missing, come up damaged, come up broken, whatever the case may be. Tenant won't take care of it, or whatever the case is.
mhm.
Just don't do it. My recommendation would be remove everything that belongs to you to storage, offsite storage, or whatever the case may be, and just don't allow the tenant to be in the same space that you have your items stored. That solves most of the problem right there. Understandably, you've got somebody who's taking care of the property. They're going to need access to landscaping stuff and things like that. If that's the case, my recommendation would be don't give the tenants access to that space. It's when
Yeah.
you have a jointly shared space like that, it's almost begging for there to be a headache. It'll turn into a he said, she said. Oh, the neighbor borrowed that tool. No, the tenant used it. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You're better off just not finding yourself in that situation.
Well, I think the other thing
That's what I would
too
recommend.
is you end up in a situation where the tenant moves out and they don't move
Hmm.
their stuff, and then you've got a garage full of garbage
Full of
that you got to
stuff,
get
right?
taken care of. You're
Hmm.
just kind of leaving more avenues for them to just kind of use your property as a dumping ground. It's
Exactly.
especially if they have
Yeah.
trouble throwing things away. So,
Well, and one of the changes we made to our management agreement recently is if someone is leaving items like personal items behind in a property that they're using as a rental, our management agreement now specifically advises against doing that. And it
mhm,
basically says if you decide to leave stuff, don't plan on it coming back to you in the same condition. Don't plan on it coming back to you at all.
mhm.
You've been warned, blah blah blah. But some people don't care. So
Yeah, yeah,
and I understand it's a challenge because sometimes you're going to be gone for 2 years for a work assignment or a deployment or something like that. You don't necessarily want to move all your stuff away from your home,
mhm,
but anytime that you're not living in your home and someone else is living in the home, you have to take into consideration that they don't care about your stuff.
yeah.
So that's my 2 cents on it.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that does it for the three questions we have this week on Ask a Property Manager. And if you guys do have any questions, you can always ask them in the group. We always kind of pick through them. Andrew finds three good ones that we can do each week. And yeah, thank you for your time, Andrew. And look forward to chit chatting with you next week about some new
Absolutely, as
questions.
always. Yep.
All right.